The night had grown still in the mountain town of Elmsridge, still in the way only a snow-covered town can be. Powder blanketed the roads, softening every sound, muting even the wind. At the edge of County Route 16, the old radio tower blinked, red against a colorless sky, its light barely cutting through the fog. It was just past midnight when Officer Rachel Lane radioed in. A routine check, she'd said, broken tail light, nothing unusual. Her voice, as always, was calm and clear. Then came the silence, not static, not interference, just ... nothing. 10 minutes later, dispatch tried to reach her. Unit 46, do you copy? No response. A few miles away, her partner, Officer Donovan, started heading toward her last location. He found the patrol car parked neatly at the side of the road, its lights still flashing against the snow. The engine was warm, the door was shut, and the seatbelt was unbuckled. Rachel Lane was gone. The only trace she left behind was the radio still on, still whispering something. Beneath the crackling noise, not words, just ... a voice, breathing. The dashcam footage, corrupted. All but 20 seconds of it. In the footage, she steps out of the vehicle, walks to the other car end, then she freezes, stares at something off camera, and then slowly, she speaks. There's no one here, but someone's standing behind me. Then the feed cuts out and Elmsridge would never sleep soundly again. Elmsridge was the kind of town people drove through without noticing. One road in, one road out, surrounded by pine forests that turned black by nightfall and white with snowfall for half the year. It had one gas station, one diner, and one police station with 4 officers working rotating shifts. The kind of place where crime meant a stolen lawn gnome or a drunk moose in someone's backyard. Officer Rachel Lane had moved there 5 years earlier from the city. People said she was running from something, but in truth, she was running toward peace. Elmsridge gave her that: quiet patrols, familiar faces, early morning coffee in the break room, and no screaming sirens. For a while, that peace felt real. She'd quickly earned a reputation as reliable, calm under pressure, and tough without being harsh. Always the first to show up and the last to leave. People trusted her. Kids waved when she passed. Even the town's few troublemakers lowered their voices in her presence. Her partner, Officer Mark Donovan, had known her since the academy. They weren't close. Rachel kept her past private, but there was mutual respect, unspoken understanding. He'd seen her jump fences, talk down drunks twice her size, and once chase a bear off someone's porch without breaking a sweat. The only strange thing about Rachel was her curiosity about the road. County Route 16, a narrow, twisting road that looped around the base of Black Hollow Ridge, the wooded slope that locals never hike. The road had a reputation. Accidents, lost hikers, ghost stories whispered at the diner over coffee and hash browns. No one lived along it. No one parked there for long. Truckers swore their GPS glitched out on that stretch, rerouting them through a maze of non-existent roads. Rachel, being practical, didn't believe in the stories, but she'd always ask questions. Why hasn't the county fixed the signage? Why is there no patrol coverage past mile marker 12? Why was that missing car found miles away, keys still in the ignition? She kept a folder in her desk drawer marked 16, notes, printouts, news clippings. Donovan once peeked at it during a slow shift. Most of it was unremarkable traffic logs, radio records, but a few things stood out. Missing persons reports going back decades, all from the same area, always around winter, always at night. And then one evening, Rachel got the call. A routine traffic stop on Route 16. A black sedan, no tags, broken taillight. She didn't hesitate. Got it, she said into her radio. I'm heading out. Dispatch logged her last position at 12:04 a.m. when Donovan reached the site 15 minutes later. Something felt wrong before he even got out of his cruiser. The snowfall was untouched and no fresh prints, except for Rachel's cruiser sat perfectly aligned on the shoulder, emergency lights spinning, driver's side door shut, engine still running. The black sedan, she'd reported, nowhere in sight. He approached carefully, one hand on his holster. Rachel. He called out. Nothing. Inside her car. The heater was on. Her notebook opened to a blank page. Her flashlight lay on the seat. The radio crackled faintly, but the channel was clear. No calls, no chatter, just a low, faint hiss, almost like breathing. He stepped back, scanning the woods. Silence. Thick fog hugged the treetops. His own footprints were already disappearing under fresh snow. Then he noticed something on the hood of the cruiser. A smear. No, a handprint, but not hers. It was long, thin, fingers too narrow, too curved, like it had melted onto the metal, not pressed against it. The dashcam had recorded exactly 20 seconds of footage before glitching into static. In the footage, Rachel is seen walking toward the black sedan, her boots crunching against snow. Then she stops, tilts her head, and says, "There's no one here, but someone's standing behind me." She doesn't turn, just stands still. And then she begins to smile, but not the way Rachel smiles. It stretches wrong, and just before the feed cuts, her breath fogs the lens as if she's now standing inside the cruiser. Looking back at the camera, Donovan ordered a full search of the woods. Dogs, drones, volunteers, no tracks, no blood, no struggle. Nothing. But by morning, every person who had watched the dashcam footage began to report the same thing. Whispers in their home radios, lights flickering at exactly 12:04 a.m. Some claimed they saw her, Rachel, standing in their driveway or reflected in windows. But when they opened the door, she was gone. Dispatch tried to dismiss it. Stress, small town panic, mass suggestion. But Donovan knew better. He'd seen the footage. He knew Rachel, and something wasn't right. So he reopened the folder marked 16. Only this time, he saw something new. A report from 1978. A rookie officer named Daniel Merrow went missing during a traffic stop. Last logged location, Route 16. The file included a grainy, black and white photo of his cruiser. In the background was a blurred figure, barely visible, standing behind the car that had Las 12:04 Alto M. Exactly 47 years before Rachel's disappearance. And his final radio transmission was eerily similar. "There's no one here, but something's watching me." The morning after Rachel Lane's disappearance, the mood in Elmsridge shifted. People noticed at first in the air a heaviness that clung to the chest. Radios in trucks sputtered, static weaving between songs. Dogs barked at corners. Porch lights flickered out all at once at 12:04 a.m., as if the town collectively blinked and forgot how to breathe. Officer Donovan didn't sleep. He spent the night reviewing Rachel's case folder, spreading its contents across his desk like puzzle pieces he hoped would fit together. Every missing person case near Route 16 shared the same details. Nightfall, winter, a lone driver or officer, all gone without a trace. The patterns had been there, scattered across decades, but no one had ever followed them closely, until Rachel scribbled something strange in the margins of a newspaper clipping. "Why do they always smile before they vanish?" Donovan hadn't noticed that note before, and the longer he stared at it, the more unsettled he felt. He played the dashcam footage again, focusing on the moment her smile begins to wide, to slow. He paused it and zoomed in. In the reflection of her cruiser's window, there was something, a faint outline behind her shoulder, not a person, exactly, more like a shape, tall, crooked, like a shadow trying to stand like a man. He took a screenshot and enhanced it on his laptop. Adjusting the contrast, it looked like antlers. Later that morning, Donovan met with the town's only tech expert, an ex-military radio specialist named Garrett. He played him the audio from Rachel's last transmission. Garrett frowned. "There's something layered under the static." He cleaned the audio using spectral tools, isolating the frequencies. Hidden beneath the noise was a second voice, a whisper, almost inaudible. Garrett's screen lit up with the translated audio, a phrase repeated 3 times. "She sees too much. She sees too much. She sees too much." Donovan felt cold in his spine. Rachel hadn't just stumbled onto a pattern, she had seen something she wasn't meant to. 2 nights later, another call came in, this time from a trucker. He'd broken down along Route 16, around mile marker 12. Dispatch told him to stay inside the vehicle. Help was on the way. When officers arrived, the cab was empty, the truck still idling. The driver's phone was found on the seat recording video. Donovan watched it. The driver had filmed something through the windshield. At first, there was only fog. Then a figure appeared, walking toward the cab. Not running, just gliding, the driver whispered. "Who's that? Is that?" He moved the camera to his side mirror. Rachel Lane was standing behind the truck, staring directly at the lens. Not moving, not blinking. The screen went black. That night, Donovan returned to the woods along Route 16, alone. Against orders, he parked near where Rachel's cruiser had been found and began walking with a flashlight and a handheld recorder. Snow crunched underfoot. The wind whistled low. As he reached mile marker 12, his flashlight flickered, then died. Batteries fully charged, just quit. The trees around him seemed to lean in. His breath fogged the air. And then he heard her. "Mark." It was Rachel's voice. He turned, searching Rachel, but she didn't answer. Only the sound of something moving behind the trees. Slow crunch, crunch, stop. He clicked on the recorder. A soft breath, not his own, came through the speaker, and then a whisper. Low and hollow. You brought her too close. You opened the road again. Donovan ran. The next day, he found something in his mailbox, an unmarked envelope. Inside was a Polaroid, black and white. It showed him, standing in front of his own cruiser, flashlight raised. Behind him, in the woods, stood 3 people, all smiling too wide. Rachel was in the center. He brought the photo to Sheriff Albright, who dismissed it as a prank. But Donovan could tell. The sheriff was scared, he just wouldn't say it. Elmsridge was small. Word got around. More strange things started happening. An EMT saw Rachel's reflection in the hospital's break room mirror. A high school janitor reported hearing her voice over the intercom system calling for backup. A mother claimed her son woke up with a nosebleed, whispering, "She's in the trees now. She's almost home." And always at 12:04 a.m. Donovan went back to the case files. Deeper this time. He found something buried in the old archives. Back when Elmsridge was first settled in the 1800s, a series of disappearances near Black Hollow Ridge. Farmers, hunters, always in winter. The only record of investigation came from a frontier sheriff named Elias Wren. In his journal, he wrote, "They return each cold season those who've seen the hollow's truth. They vanish not by force, but by welcome. Smiling, they cross over, as if glad to leave." Donovan stared at that word. Smiling, it matched what Rachel wrote. What she saw, these people weren't just taken, they were invited. He compiled everything: audio, photos, journal, scans, and sent them anonymously to a podcast host who covered unsolved mysteries he needed the world to know, in case he disappeared. Next, but it didn't stop there. One evening, while reviewing body cam footage from the trucker's case, he noticed something chilling. In the frame where Rachel appears behind the truck, her hand is raised, pointing not at the camera, not at the trucker. At him. She was pointing at Donovan. That night, he dreamed of her. She stood in the center of Route 16, pale and shivering. "Don't come back here, Mark," she said. "It wants you to." Then her skin split like paper, and something stepped out from inside her. Tall, antlered, hollow-eyed. He woke, gasping. The alarm clock blinking 12:04 a.m., and on his bedroom wall, in the condensation left by the cold, handprint, too long, too narrow. Donovan drove alone, once again, past the familiar turnoff to Route 16. Snowfall returned that night like a whisper so fine and dry, it barely made a sound against his windshield. The clock on his dash ticked closer to 12:04 a.m. He shouldn't have come. He knew that, but the nightmares hadn't stopped. The handprints on the windows were growing in number, and every morning, when he checked the rearview mirror, he saw her face flicker just behind his shoulder, gone the moment he turned. There was no peace waiting for him, not anymore. His cruiser slowed to a stop at the shoulder of the road, just like Rachel's had. The trees beyond the ditch stood like statues, bark black against the snow, their limbs frozen mid-motion. It was quieter than he expected. No wind, no birds. Even the engine hummed as though afraid to break the silence. Donovan stepped out. The door shut behind him with a click that echoed. He walked slowly toward the tree line, flashlight gripped in one hand, voice recorder in the other. His boots left sharp impressions in the snow. He crossed the ditch, past mile marker 12. And then he saw them. Figures. At first they looked like people, just shadows standing among the trees. But as he stepped closer, the shapes shifted, widened. Some were tall and crooked, some were faces that looked stretched, worn too many times like old masks. And one of them, Rachel, she stood apart from the others. No uniform, no breath fogging in the air, just stillness. Her eyes locked onto his. "Mark," she said softly. He stopped walking. "You shouldn't be here," she whispered. Her voice didn't echo. "You were right," he said, "about all of it." Her smile was gentle, but her eyes, those weren't her eyes anymore. "You followed the trail," she said. "You saw what I saw. That's how it begins." He raised the recorder. "Why? What is it?" She tilted her head slightly. "It doesn't have a name. It's not a ghost, not a person. It's a memory that eats." She pointed to the woods behind her. Slowly, one of the crooked shapes stepped forward. Donovan squinted through the falling snow and realized it was wearing a uniform. An old one. Sheriff's badge from the 1970s. Daniel Moreau. Then another figure emerged, eyes hollow, skin pale. A highway patrol officer from the 1950s. Then a woman in colonial garb. Then another, dozens. All of them vanished here. All of them standing silently, watching, frozen smiles. Rachel took another step toward him. You can leave now, she said. But you won't forget, and it will come anyway, he whispered. What does it want? The wind stirred the trees, bent. And from deep within the forest, something began to move, heavy, slow, antlers like dead branches scraping sky. Rachel looked over her shoulder, eyes widening, not in fear but, it's here. Donovan backed away, breath catching, hand reaching for his sidearm he knew wouldn't help. As the trees parted, the creature stepped into view. Its shape was wrong, legs too long, joints bent backward, skin like wet bark, and its face, it had no face. Only a smooth stretch of shadow where features should be. But even without eyes, it looked straight at him. His knees buckled. In his ears he heard every voice from every disappearance layered over one another. Rachel, Daniel, the trucker, children, mothers, all whispering the same thing. You saw it, now it sees you. He shut his eyes, prayed, hoped, and then nothing, just silence. When he opened his eyes, the trees were empty, the snow undisturbed, his footprints the only ones. Rachel was gone. The recorder in his hand had shut off. Only the screen blinked back at him. Las 12:04 am. Donovan never filed a full report. What could he say? That he walked into a forest and spoke to the dead? That a creature with no face knew his name? Instead, he handed in his resignation 2 weeks later. No press conference, no farewell. He just packed his locker quietly, slipped Rachel's folder into his duffel bag, and left the Elmsridge Police Department for good. No one asked him why. They already knew something had changed. His eyes were hollow. His hands trembled slightly when no one was watching. And though he still spoke clearly, something inside his voice had faded like a radio with the volume turned down. Just a bit too low. He moved downstate to a town with no forests and no old roads. Found work as a night security guard at a grocery warehouse, quiet, boring, peaceful. But every year, when the snow begins to fall and the wind turns sharp, he starts checking the windows. At 12:04 am, his lights flicker. Sometimes, the radio on his kitchen counter picks up voices, old transmissions from dead frequencies. And sometimes, when he passes a reflective surface, he doesn't see himself right away. He sees Rachel, standing just behind him. Still in uniform, still smiling. And in those moments he wonders if he really left the forest at all, or if something followed him out. They say the forest along Route 16 is quiet now, and no more strange calls, no more disappearances. But if you drive that road alone, long after midnight, you might hear a voice through your static. Not crying, not screaming. Just calm, steady. And smiling. This is Officer Lane. Routine traffic stop. I'll check it out. And then nothing. Just the sound of the trees. Waiting for someone else to listen.